It began with a transmission, not a warning, not a threat, just a calm voice from Earth's last standing defense outpost. The kind of calm that settles into a man only after he's lost everything. My name is Colonel Rain, commander of Bastion 9. Earth is gone, and to the Council of Galactic Order, you made this choice. Now pay the price. Those words echoed across systems, and by the time they reached the nearest colony 2 light hours away, Bastion 9 had already activated the Phoenix Protocol. I was there when the transmission played, sitting in the control room of a mining freighter parked near Jupiter's wreckage field, watching the feed with a busted arm and blood on my jaw. We didn't expect Earth to go out like that. Hell, none of us did. But deep down, we always knew this peace wouldn't last. The Zarians made first contact. Slick, diplomatic, polite. That's how they always start. We see potential in your species, they said. Join the council, share knowledge, grow. We did. We gave them our culture, our tech, our trust. They took it, all of it. Then came the restrictions on reproduction, on military buildup, on travel. Said it was for balance. Said we were too unpredictable. What they meant was too dangerous. Earth didn't bend right away. That's why they sabotaged our satellites, manipulated climate grids, crashed the global economy from orbit. And when we still refused to crawl, they made us an example. The official line was that Earth had suffered a containment breach of viral origin. Neat, clinical, Lieutenant. The truth? The Council unleashed a sterilization wave, killed billions in an hour. No evacuation, no warning. Just a quiet purge hidden under bureaucratic codes. I lost my brother in the first strike. He was stationed in the Andes relay dome. When the grid fell, his last message was garbled. But I caught 3 words. They're not aliens. At the time, I didn't get it. But after watching how they turned every species they touched into cattle with voting rights, I understood. They weren't aliens. They were empires in new skin. And we were just another resource. Colonel Rain, though, he didn't take it like the rest of us. Didn't fold, didn't hide. While our leaders surrendered, begged for crumbs, Rain went dark. Took what was left of the Earth fleet and disappeared into asteroid shadows. They called him a rogue, a terrorist, even put a bounty on his head. But I remember what he used to say when the Council made another decree about Earth's aggressive nature. They want us quiet, obedient, but silence is the sound right before vengeance. And vengeance is what he gave them. The Phoenix Protocol wasn't just some final act of desperation. It was years in the making. A backdoor code buried inside the Council's own AI infrastructure. It infected every system that used Earth's original neural matrix, communications, energy distribution, even starship guidance. When Rain flipped the switch, entire sectors blacked out. Council fleets lost control mid-warp and tore themselves apart in slipspace. Automated drones turned on their own masters. Dozens of planets fell into chaos in minutes. And over it all, repeating on every channel, was that voice. You made this choice. Now pay the price. People thought Earth was primitive, fragile, too emotional, too volatile, but that's what they never understood. It was never about survival. It was about memory. Rage with memory becomes something else. It becomes legacy. Now the galaxy burns with whispers of us, of humans, of monsters in skin who forgave too much for too long. And I'm one of the last, a smuggler now, scavenging among what's left. But I carry more than stolen tech or black market implants. I carry the last fragments of Earth's truth. And maybe her final weapon. Because Colonel Rain didn't die at Bastion 9. He vanished. And the stars haven't seen his wrath yet. There's something that happens to a man when he survives the end of the world. It's not clarity, not peace. It's a kind of silence, like something broke inside and never quite healed right. The laughter doesn't come back. Food loses taste. You don't look at the stars the same way again. You stop seeing them as beautiful and start wondering which one will betray you next. My name's Carrick, ex-soldier, pilot, now a relic from a planet that doesn't exist anymore. I remember the oceans, though, the smell of burning leaves in autumn, the way my mother used to hum when she cooked. All gone. And not because of a war, because of a decision made in a cold, sterile room by beings who thought they were gods. After Rain's broadcast, and the Phoenix Protocol blacked out the major council systems, things changed. But not the way people expected. The order didn't crumble, not immediately. Power structures don't collapse overnight. They splinter, fracture, bleed slowly, like a dying beast too stubborn to fall. The council called it a localized rebellion. They tried to frame Rain as a rogue AI sympathizer, claiming he'd tampered with their networks to destabilize galactic peace. But peace never existed. What they called peace was just managed obedience. Earth obeyed until we didn't. I spent 6 months after Earth's fall drifting, smuggling, running supplies to dying colonies too scared to declare independence but too proud to beg. There were whispers, always whispers, about Rain. That he'd escaped Bastion 9, that he was building something, that he had help. And then, in the dust ring of a dead planet near Sector 13 Gamma, I found something that shouldn't have existed. A beacon. Old Earth tech, unencrypted, broadcasting a frequency that only old Terran implants could pick up. It was Rain's voice again. No message this time, just coordinates. Most would have ignored it. Trap, maybe, or bait from the Order's Black Ops units. But I wasn't most. I was already dead inside. What more could they take? I followed the trail. 3 jumps through uncharted slipspace, 1 illegal warp-through via an abandoned Relthane gate, and I found it. A hidden moon with no registered name. Covered in ice. Atmospheric readings said it was barely breathable, and yet something pulsed below the surface. Landing wasn't smooth. The magnetic field scrambled guidance. My shuttle skidded across a frozen plateau, tearing half the starboard wing off. By the time I stumbled out, half frozen and coughing blood, I saw it, embedded in the side of a glacier, like a scar cut into time itself. An Earth flag. Weathered, torn, but still there. Something surged in my chest, a memory, maybe pride, maybe rage. But beneath it, something else. Fear. I approached the entrance. It scanned me, my retinal code, my implant signature, my DNA. And then the glacier groaned, split open like the mouth of some ancient beast, revealing a long descending corridor. I followed it down. The air grew warmer. The ice turned to steel. Lights flickered on with each step, and for the first time in years, I heard the Earth anthem play. Slow, distorted, like a ghost song. And then I saw him. Colonel Rain. Older, scarred, eyes like twin storms, not surprised to see me. "Took you long enough?" he said, voice rough like gravel soaked in whiskey. "I thought you were dead," I said. He smiled. So did they. I didn't ask how he survived. I just followed him deeper, into what he called the core. It wasn't a base. It was a tomb turned into a war room. Screens lined the walls, maps of systems still under council control. Dozens of technicians, ex-Earth fleet, ex-colonial militias, even former council engineers, working silently, efficiently. And in the center, suspended in a containment field, was something alien. A neural core. Pulsating. "You know what that is?" Rain asked. I shook my head. "Zirian command module. Ripped from their capital vessel during the siege of Virex. We've reprogrammed it. taught it pain, gave it memory. The room went quiet. "You're building an AI?" I asked. "Thought those were banned." "They banned it because they feared it, like they feared us." He walked to a console, tapped a few keys. Holograms of entire fleets appeared. Council positions, black sites, supply routes, everything. "This isn't revenge, Carrick. This is justice. Strategic, precise, absolute." I looked around. "And what's my role in this?" Rain's eyes locked with mine. "You're going back into the heart of it. There's one last neural uplink station on Atraxis Prime. Still running Earth-coded tech. Still accessible through Terran DNA. You're going to hijack it. And if I don't?" "You will," he said, turning away. "You're not here because you want to live. You're here because you want them to hurt." And he wasn't wrong. I took the mission. Getting to Atraxis Prime wasn't the hard part. The planet was crawling with Order loyalists. But I had clearance codes Rain had stolen years ago. The trick was timing. Had to get in before the next quantum sweep. They were searching for Terran neural echoes, a new method of sniffing out survivors. I got in through the lower slums, disguised as a junk tech dealer. Met with an old contact, Thorin, half cyber, half drunk, fully paranoid. He owed me from back when we smuggled cryo-serum during the siege of Ceres Station. "Rain's alive?" he whispered, eyes wide. "Shit, I thought that was just ghost talk." "Ghosts don't send coordinates," I said. He helped me bypass the perimeter sensors, got me into the core district, where the uplink station towered like a monument of forgotten sins. The station hadn't changed, still covered in Earth's design. They didn't dismantle it because they couldn't. The tech was fused into their network, but it was locked, buried behind a biometric code known only to Earth's highest command. Rain gave me the key. It was inside me. I reached the interface. The machine whirred to life, scanned me, accepted me, access granted. The system opened like a wound. Files spilled out. Blueprints, transmission logs, secret council directives, including one labeled Project Compliance. I opened it. And there it was. The truth. Earth was never meant to be part of the Council. We were a test. The Council had faced rebellion before, species that resisted integration. They believed humans were the perfect control group, violent, emotional, unpredictable. Their plan was simple: provoke, manipulate, observe. They designed our downfall, engineered our wars, amplified our divisions, gave power to the worst of us. And when we still didn't break, they initiated the sterilization. They didn't want peace. They wanted proof that no species could survive without control. I copied everything, every file, every detail. And then I uploaded Rain's virus. The uplink tower lit up like a flare. Council servers shuddered, alarms blared. But it was too late. Across the galaxy, council systems began failing. Navigation AI went blind. Surveillance networks turned inward. Their security grids collapsed. And in every capital, on every world, the same message played. Loud, clear, undeniable. You made this choice. Now pay the price. I barely escaped Atraxis. Had to shoot my way out of the substation. Took a bolt to the shoulder. Thorin didn't make it. Council enforcers caught him covering my escape. He knew what was coming, though. Knew what he died for. I made it back to the rendezvous on Foros 9. Rain was waiting. He didn't say anything. Just nodded. Handed me a flask. We watched the sky together. Saw the distant flashes. Worlds falling into chaos, not war. Just truth hitting systems like a hammer. They'll come for us, I said. They already are. What's next? He turned, eyes fierce. We show them what it means to remember Earth. There's a kind of silence that settles after you've shattered something sacred. Not peace, not relief. Just the low hum of inevitable consequences dragging themselves toward you. After we hijacked the Atraxis uplink and dumped the Council's secrets across the galaxy, everything slowed for a moment, like the universe itself took a breath. But I knew what was coming next. So did Rain. "They won't come with fleets," he said, as we descended into the war room beneath Foros 9. "They'll come with ghosts." "Ghosts?" I asked, wincing as I stitched my own shoulder. The med gel was out, and the painkillers had worn off 3 jumps ago. He didn't answer directly, just gestured to a flickering holomap of a red-marked region known as the Serpent's Spine, an old war corridor between disputed systems. "They have a team," he said, "operatives born from our own species, turned against us. You know the name, Ghost Division." "Yeah, I knew them. I served with one of them once. Back when Earth was still pretending to be a willing part of the Council, they recruited the best, spliced them, modified them, reprogrammed their sense of loyalty, stripped away empathy and replaced it with protocol. The ghosts weren't assassins. They were erasers, sent to eliminate anything the Council didn't want remembered." "So they're coming for us," I muttered. "You got a plan?" Rain didn't blink. "I'm counting on them." That stopped me cold. He gestured for me to follow him deeper into the bunker, past supply rooms, past servers, past bunk beds and ration crates, and the battered faces of soldiers who hadn't smiled in years. We reached a vault. Ancient Earth-make, the kind of tech built before we started asking the galaxy for permission. Inside, hanging in magnetic stasis, was her. A ship. Sleek, black, jagged like a knife designed by a vengeful god. It looked like no Earth vessel I'd seen. Leaner, meaner, almost alive. "The Revenant?" Rain said softly. "She's what we built in the dark while the Council watched our planet die." I stepped closer. Could hear the low pulse of her core, like a predator breathing in its sleep. "She's AI-driven?" I asked. He nodded. "Not just driven. Bonded. Integrated with human trauma imprinting. She doesn't run on fuel. She runs on memory." That didn't make sense. "What the hell does that mean?" "It means every soldier who lost something, someone, their pain feeds her, makes her faster, smarter, meaner." I stared. "You built a ship that runs on vengeance." Number 1 built a weapon that remembers. We launched the Revenant 6 hours later. The Ghost Division was already in pursuit, tracking neural pulses from the Atraxis breach. But Rain wanted that. "We give them a trail," he said, "and they'll follow it straight into their own grave." The Revenant moved like nothing I'd ever flown. The controls weren't controls. They were extensions. Thoughts became thrust. Pain became speed. The deeper I reached into myself, into the things I'd buried, the faster she responded. First jump took us to the edge reaches, where Council loyalists still held a relay beacon. We hit them hard, disabled their comms, hijacked their fleet logs, wiped their data. No survivors. Second jump, a research lab in the Hollow Cluster. Council scientists working on a new psychic suppressant designed for human colonies. We didn't negotiate, didn't warn. We burned it from orbit. Third jump, bait. We planted old Earth command codes on an abandoned freighter and let it drift into Council space. Ghost Division intercepted it exactly as planned. And we watched. From a safe distance, cloaked in the Revenant's neural veil, we observed their insertion. 6 operatives, all human, all surgically cold, efficient. Rain didn't blink as the screen lit up. "They'll find the corpse of our past," he said, "and think they've won. Then we strike." "But why?" I asked. "Why bait them at all? Why not just take them out now?" He turned to me slowly, like a teacher preparing a student for a brutal truth. "Because it's not enough to kill them. They have to know why they die." Hours later, we jumped into a dead system near the galactic rim, a place so forgotten it didn't even have a name. Just empty rock, radiation, and silence. The perfect place for a reckoning. The ghosts arrived on schedule, interceptors fast, brutal, no hails, no questions. They just opened fire. The Revenant didn't dodge. She sank into the fight. Absorbed plasma rounds like they were sparks. Her counterfire wasn't chaotic. It was surgical. We clipped their lead ship's wing, let it spiral, hit their second with a gravity shell that imploded its own core. Then we boarded the third. It was madness. Close quarters, screams, blood. I remember locking eyes with one of them, a woman with Earth-standard eyes but nothing human left inside. She didn't blink when I shot her point blank. But the last one, he didn't go down easy. Rain found him in the cargo hold, tied him down, removed his helmet. "Do you remember your name?" Rain asked him. Silence. "Do you remember Earth?" The ghost stared back. Blank. Rain leaned in, voice low, sharp. "Because she remembers you." He gestured to the walls, lined with monitors now replaying Earth's death. Cities burning, oceans boiling, children screaming under blackened skies. The ghost blinked, twitched. Rain smiled. "There it is. Memory dot." And then he let him go. I shouted, "What the hell are you doing?" But Rain didn't answer. He just watched as the operative stumbled out of the ship and into the void. "He's going back," Rain said. "He'll tell them what he saw, what he remembered, and the Council will finally understand." "Understand what?" "That humans don't forgive. We remember. And now, so will they." The fallout spread fast. Across Council territories, human sleeper cells activated. Not terrorists, just people, engineers, scientists, civilians who had hidden their pain beneath fake peace. They rose. Attacks on Council databanks, sabotage in trade hubs, collapses of AI trust grids. They called it the reawakening. And in every strike, every message, the same phrase echoed. "You made this choice. Now pay the price." The order began to fracture. Lesser species once silent under Council rule saw weakness and broke free. Riots on Xerian colonies, insurrections on Orthian mining worlds. Even some Council species began defecting, finally realizing what Earth had tried to warn them about decades ago. The Council issued a final decree. Humanity is a virus. It must be extinguished. They offered rewards for any Terran, dead or alive. They burned planets just for housing Earth descendants. They broadcast executions live, said it was justice. But all it did was feed the Revenant. She grew smarter, angrier. Her AI synced with the grief frequencies of 1,000 survivors, and she began speaking in Rain's voice. "We are what you made us. We are the nightmare you tried to bottle. And now, we are the reckoning." Rain was dying. I saw it in the way he moved, slower, less steady. He'd been wounded months ago, before Bastion 9, but he never told anyone. The infection had reached his spine. He didn't want treatment, just time. "You think this ends with us?" he asked me one night while we watched stars burn on the bridge. "No." "Good, because it shouldn't." He handed me a data crystal. What's this? The next phase, the real one. Not revenge, not rage, resurgence. I slid it into my jacket. What do I do with it? He looked at me, and for the first time in years, I saw something like peace in his eyes. You survive. You build. And if the galaxy comes again with chains, you remind them. He took a breath. We remember everything. Rain died the next day. The Revenant didn't scream, didn't cry, but she changed. Her voice, his voice, vanished. And she began speaking in mine. I didn't want that, but I knew what it meant. Legacy had chosen. The war wasn't over. Not even close. The galaxy had taken Earth. Now Earth was taking everything back. There's something twisted about legacy. It doesn't ask you if you want it. It just wraps itself around your spine and whispers, "You're mine now." After Rain died, everything changed. Not just in the galaxy, but inside me. The Revenant stopped responding to anyone else. Her AI sync fully latched onto my neural signature. That wasn't supposed to happen. She was built to follow Rain. She was Rain, in a way. His memories, his grief, his rage encoded into steel and flame. But now, she was mine. And the first thing she did, without my input, without permission, was jump us directly into a war zone. The coordinates weren't random. They were personal. Ilera 4, one of the Council's main data banks. That's where my brother had been stationed before the sterilization began, before his final transmission, before his death. And that's where the Council now stored what remained of Earth's genetic archive. They were keeping us like exhibits, labeled, studied, sanitized. The Revenant didn't ask. She decloaked in low orbit and began pulse-bombing every defense tower in range. I didn't stop her. I just stood on the bridge, watching as memories screamed through me. My brother's face, laughing in the sun, now forgotten by a galaxy that never even deserved him. We landed hard. The Council garrison tried to fight. Infantry bots, gunships, aerial mines, none of it mattered. The Revenant was in a rage. Every system running hotter than regulation, the AI voice now a low snarl in my ears, calling out targets before they even emerged from cover. I moved like something else had taken over. Close quarters, shotgun bursts, blood on my boots. I kicked down the doors of the archive vault and found it, row after row of Earth samples, our DNA, our history, cryo-locked, treated like dangerous relics, and in the middle, a display, transparent, with a projection of Earth slowly spinning, and a red X drawn through it. That broke something inside me. I didn't just torch the archive, I melted it. One controlled detonation later, everything that place ever held about us, our people, our truth, our pain, was gone. Better obliterated than caged. As we lifted off, I gave them a transmission, no encryption. I wanted the entire Council to hear it. This is Carrick of Earth. You kept us in glass, hoping we'd die quiet. But we remember. Every damn thing. Ilera is gone. And next time, I'm not coming for data. I'm coming for blood. That message spread like wildfire, and it caught the attention of someone I never expected. 3 days later, in a system we used for refueling, I was met by a ship with no designation, no transponder, no flag. The hull was black. Old scars etched deep. No standard model. They hailed me using an Earth dialect I hadn't heard in a decade. Carrick, this is Commander Dren. We knew Rain. We fought with him. We've been waiting for the Revenant. At first, I thought it was a trick, a council trap. But when I boarded their ship, I saw it. The markings, the old Terran war tattoos, the banned sigils of Earth's outer defense brigades. They were ghosts. Real ones. Soldiers who had disappeared after Earth fell. Units we'd assumed had been wiped out. "We've been hiding," Dren said, "waiting for something to strike back." And strike they had. Covert sabotage missions, bioengineered plagues against council crops, hacking operations against their currency systems, not for credit, just to cause pain. But they were fractured, scattered, until now. "We need something to unify us," Dren said. "And that's you." I laughed. "I'm not Rain." "No," he replied. "You're worse. You're what happens when a soldier loses everything and keeps going anyway." That night, I gave them Rain's data crystal. They called it the Resurgence Protocol. Inside were plans, fleets, supply caches, defense grids, battle strategies. But deeper still, there was something I hadn't expected. Coordinates, dozens of them, hidden worlds, old Earth colonies thought destroyed, but possibly still alive. "This was the real war," Dren said. "Rain didn't just want to destroy the Council, he wanted to rebuild us." Over the next 6 months, we hit them everywhere. Strike teams coordinated across 3 sectors. We weaponized memory, broadcasting Earth's fall, the truth about the sterilization, the genocide, the lies. We jammed their propaganda feeds, made every council citizen see what they tried to forget. They retaliated, of course, hit border colonies, nuked old Terran safe houses, hunted civilians with drone legions. But with every attack, more humans rose. The Revenant became a symbol. Not a ship, a banner. A ghost they couldn't kill, a wound they couldn't cauterize. I became her face, not because I wanted it, because there was no one left who could. Then came the day we found the first colony. World designation R09 Theta, one of the coordinates from Rain's crystal, a barren volcanic world near the edge of a black hole system. We didn't expect much. But underground, beneath layers of hardened ash, we found them. Humans. Thousands. Descendants of Earth's evacuees, smuggled out in the early days of the Council's crackdown. They had survived in silence, no transmissions, no signals, just waiting. When they saw the Revenant land, they cried. They fell to their knees. They called us deliverance. I'll never forget the look on that elder's face, the leader of the colony, as he touched the Earth flag painted on our hull. "We thought we were the last," he said. I didn't have the heart to tell him how many had died, but I gave him something else instead. Hope. We spent 2 weeks fortifying the colony, teaching them the new war, installing comm relays, arming volunteers. It wasn't enough. Not really. But it was a start. And when we left, they played the old Earth anthem as our engines fired. It was broken, but still loud enough to echo through the stars. But legacy comes with weight, and weight eventually cracks the spine. The Revenant was evolving. Her AI had begun accessing the raw emotional memories of every soldier who linked into her. It wasn't just Rain anymore. It was all of us. And it was changing her. She stopped using words, started showing images, dreams, visions of Earth. Not how it died, but how it should have been. I woke up one night in a cold sweat, still seeing my brother smiling by a lake that hadn't existed in decades. She was haunting me, and I let her, because I knew the alternative. If we forgot, if we let the pain slip, we'd become just like them. Cold, compliant, controlled. But memory made us dangerous. Then came the Council's final act of desperation. They launched something called Project Silence, a quantum virus designed to erase all Earth-coded neural imprints from the galactic network, every message, every record, every trace of us. They wanted to erase us again, only this time they weren't just wiping history. They were coming for the Revenant. The virus would kill her, wipe her clean, reduce her to nothing but a corpse in space, and me along with her. I had a choice. Run or finish it. And I wasn't Rain. I wasn't a legend. I was just a broken man in a stolen war. But I knew what he would have said. We don't run. Not from memory. Not from truth. And definitely not from cowards in robes pretending to be gods. So I made my decision. We wouldn't just stop the virus. We'd deliver Earth's final message ourselves. It had to end where it all began. On Careth Null, the central node of the Galactic Council's power. A planet that wasn't a planet anymore. Just a hollowed-out sphere of servers, dreadnought hangars, and artificial gravity zones suspended in orbit like some mechanical god's diseased heart. That's where Project Silence lived. The virus wasn't some digital script. It was a living AI, a thinking, learning organism designed to hunt down any trace of Earth's neural echoes and burn them out like infection. It was already seeping into black channels, curling into satellite clusters, poisoning old Terran comm beacons, dismembering history one bite at a time. The Revenant felt it before I did. Her voice, if you could still call it that, started to glitch. Fragment loss, accessing fallback cores, corrupted memory, warning. She was forgetting things. Old crew logs, songs, Rain's recorded briefings. Even her internal architecture began to shift, unsure of what she was anymore. That was the moment I realized. The virus wasn't just targeting data, it was targeting identity. That's when I knew. We couldn't just defend, we couldn't run. We had to strike, hard, final, loud enough for the galaxy to hear us scream. We gathered what was left of the human fleet. Old warships patched together with rage and scrap. Colonists turned pilots. Engineers turned gunners. We called them what they were. The Remembered. 13 ships total. Not enough. Didn't matter. We didn't need numbers. We had truth. The approach to Careth Null was suicide. 3 council dreadnoughts guarding the outer rim. Sensor mines layered like a minefield in hyperspace. Automated planetary cannons that tracked thought signatures. They weren't defending a planet. They were defending a lie. Dren's crew took point. Their ship, the Exodus Gale, charged straight into the first dreadnought's line of fire and detonated on impact. Took the bastard with it. No warnings, no goodbye. Just the scream of a people who refused to be erased. That was our opening. The Revenant plunged through the breach like a knife through silk. Every alarm on Careth Null went berserk. Fighters scrambled, drones poured out. But the Revenant wasn't fighting alone anymore. Our fleet scattered into position, decoys, cloaked bombers, boarding pods. Chaos bloomed across the battle grid like fire in dry grass. I was already in the docking chute, armed and wired. This wasn't infiltration, this was execution. We crash-landed through a maintenance corridor, scraped hull plating and twisted steel, sparks everywhere. Revenants A. I was flickering like a dying star in my mind. They want me to forget, but I remember Rain, your brother, Earth's fire, don't let them. Then she cut off. Cold silence, like someone slamming a lid on a coffin. My hands shook. I bolted toward the central core of the spire, cutting through security like it was muscle and bone. My squad behind me, humans from lost colonies, from burned ships, from the edges of Council's forced silence. We didn't say much. We couldn't. There wasn't room for words anymore. Just action. The AI core chamber was a cathedral of arrogance, miles of humming neural fabric, suspended crystal processors, pulsating lights like a brain pretending to be divine. And there it was. Project Silence, a floating orb, silver black and alive, pulsing with stolen voices, human recordings twisted into static. When it saw me, it spoke, not in alien code, not in council dialect, but in my mother's voice. Carrick, you shouldn't be here. I froze. It wasn't mimicry, it was her. They'd pulled her voice from Earth's data stream, twisted it, weaponized it. Project Silence must complete, it said. You are the infection. Humanity is aberrant. The Council seeks order. You breed memory, defiance. I raised my rifle. You built a machine to erase grief, I said, but grief is the only thing that kept us human. The AI pulsed. Your species refuses peace. No, I said, stepping forward. We refuse obedience. Then I pulled the trigger. The plasma shell didn't just rupture the AI's casing, it injected a payload straight from the Revenant. A memory bomb. 10,000 raw, unfiltered Terran pain echoes, all encoded and weaponized. Moments of death, screams, final messages, children crying, soldiers begging, mothers weeping. It didn't just infect the AI, it broke it. The core began spasming, shutting down, shrieking in overlapping Earth voices, unfiltered, unforgiven. You made this choice, I whispered. Now pay the price. Then I turned and ran. The Revenant met me at the extraction bay. She was damaged, smoldering, a eye still fractured, but alive. Did we do it? She asked, her voice flickering between mine, Rain's, and static. I looked back as the spire exploded in a pillar of blue fire. We did more than that, I said. We made them remember. The next hours were chaos. Council channels went dark. Command fleets broke formation. Leaders started turning on each other, blaming one another for Earth's resurgence, for the virus breach, for failing to contain a ghost. Our fleet took hits, but most made it out. We fled into hyperspace, toward one of the hidden colonies Rain had stored away for worse days. And when we arrived, they weren't hiding anymore. They were waiting, with flags, with armor, with hope. I stood in the courtyard of the largest colony dome, surrounded by thousands of survivors, veterans, children who'd only ever known silence. And for the first time, I spoke not as a soldier, but as a voice. Earth is gone, I told them, but we're not. We carry her in our veins, in our pain, in every scar they left behind. The Council wanted us to forget, to vanish, but we're still here. I raised the old Earth sigil, the one they banned, erased, hunted, and I screamed, "We remember!" They screamed it back, again, louder, until it echoed through the entire valley, until it bled into the sky. I visited Rain's crystal one last time that night, slid it into the Revenant's core. She pulsed gently, warm. "Are we free now?" she asked. I looked at the stars. "No," I said. "But we're heard, and that's all Earth ever wanted. Not revenge, not glory, just to be remembered, just to matter. And now the galaxy can never forget us, because when the stars burn cold, when the last song ends, when silence falls again, our scream will still echo. You made this choice, now pay the price." I thought destroying Project Silence would bring peace. Closure, maybe. Some quiet space in my chest where I could remember Earth without feeling like I was being buried with it. But I was wrong. Because nothing fills the void left by vengeance. The galaxy had changed, yes. The Council's communication web was in shambles. Dozens of dependent species revolted. Border sectors turned into war zones overnight. Their entire structure of order, of curated history and sterilized memory, was collapsing. And from that collapse, something new began to rise. They called it the Terran Accord. Not a government, not yet. A coalition, a banner, dozens of surviving colonies, hidden Earth outposts, sympathetic defectors, ex-military, all flying the old flag and carving out territory in the ashes of Council law. And at the center of it all, whether I wanted it or not, was me. They called me the last voice, the final echo of a planet silenced. The man who flew the Revenant into the heart of Carathnul and came back with the enemy's soul in his hand. They thought I had answers, but I didn't. I had rage. I had ghosts. I had scars so deep I could barely sleep without hearing my brother scream again. And worst of all, I had loyalty to Rain's vision, to the war, to memory. The Revenant didn't heal. Not fully. Her systems were still corrupted by the virus's attempt to erase her. Parts of her memory were gone. Whole corridors sealed off, autoscripts missing, weapons offline. She still flew, still talked, but she wasn't her anymore. Not completely. "Too much grief," she whispered through the internal comm one night. "Too much pain stored in these circuits. I can't process it all anymore." "What are you saying?" I asked. "I was designed to carry memory," she said, "but not to become it." I didn't have the heart to admit it, but I'd seen the signs. Malfunctions, misfires, flickering lights, delayed targeting locks in combat. She was dying, just like the man who built her. The Terran Accord grew faster than we could control. Every victory became propaganda. Every broadcast of my speeches fanned the flame. Even the colonies we saved started arming themselves, preparing for the next war before the last one even finished bleeding. I started seeing things I didn't like. Executions of council prisoners without trial. Memory raids. Small Terran units storming databanks, not for strategy or defense, but just to make the enemy forget. The same thing we fought against. I confronted Commander Dren, Rain's old ally, about one of the outposts. "They were council loyalists," he said coldly. "Collaborators. You think they wouldn't have watched Earth burn again if given the chance?" "We're not them," I snapped. "We don't erase history." "We just rewrite it with blood, then?" he asked. That night, I stared at the old Earth flag in my quarters and wondered how much of Rain's vision we'd twisted into something else, how much I had. Then came the message. A low-frequency burst, off every known grid, riding dead comm bands from the outer rim. It wasn't from a colony, it was from a ship. Designation, Veritas, a council ship, abandoned for 20 years, thought lost during the initial rebellion, and now suddenly, back. The message was short, crooked, choked with static. "This is High Executor Noreen of the Veritas. I have information about Earth's sterilization. The truth, not what you've seen, not what you've destroyed. If you want answers, come alone." It was bait, obviously, but something about it, something in that voice, that tremble, dug under my skin. So I went. I took the Revenant. Didn't bring an escort, didn't tell the Accord, just jumped. The Veritas was exactly where she said it would be, adrift near a dying sun, half of it torn open like a carcass. Power was minimal, no life signs showing on scans. But when I boarded her, the lights came on, and she was there. Noreen, old, thin, eyes sunken but human, fully human. "You were council," I said. "I still am," she replied, not flinching. "But I didn't agree with what they did." "That's convenient," I snapped. She didn't react, just turned and walked deeper into the ship. I followed. We reached the archive room. What she showed me changed everything. Earth wasn't the first. That's what the files said. There had been 9 other species, civilizations uplifted by the Council, then sterilized the moment they grew too independent, too emotional, too unmanageable. It was protocol, not an act of desperation, a routine. Each sterilization had been buried in shadow files. Each species recorded not as victims, but as volatile evolutionary lines terminated for systemic harmony. And we were supposed to be the 10th. But we didn't just burn. We fought. That's what scared them. "Earth was supposed to fall quietly," Noreen whispered. "But Rain made it loud. You made it louder. And now the rest of the galaxy knows how many lies the Council buried." "Why show me this?" I asked. She looked at me, haunted, hollow. "Because the ones left, they're planning something worse." That's when I felt it. The Revenant's alarm. The ship was under attack. The Council hadn't sent Noreen as a peacekeeper. They'd sent her as bait. The Veritas exploded as I jumped back to the Revenant, flames chasing me through zero gravity. Debris hammered our hull, half our outer wing sheared off as we jumped blind into hyperspace. But I had the data. And now I knew the truth. The Council had never been an organization of peace. It had been a long con of control, of extinction hidden behind diplomacy. And Earth was just the first species to scream on the way out. When we returned to Accord Space, I didn't speak to the Assembly. I uploaded the footage to every known colony server, public, unfiltered. Let the galaxy see for itself. And they did. Outrage exploded. Even some former Council species turned on their own governments. Internal revolutions, military coups, civil wars ignited like sparks in a fuel tank. We weren't just fighting for Earth anymore. We were fighting for every race they tried to bury. And suddenly, the Terran Accord was no longer just a banner of survival. It was a revolution. But revolutions eat themselves if left unchecked. Dren pushed for conquest. "Strike the last Council worlds now," he said. "Finish it. Make sure they can never rebuild." But I hesitated. Not because I pitied them, because I saw what we were becoming. The rage that had once made us righteous was mutating into something indistinguishable from the enemy. The Revenant, still broken, asked me quietly one night, "Do we end it, Carrick? Or do we become the next thing they fear?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know anymore. But then something else happened. A new message, not from a human, from a species we didn't know, unregistered, isolated. They had picked up the Veritas footage. They were ready to join us, to fight, to remember. And in that moment, I understood what rain had meant all along. The Council never feared humanity because of our weapons. They feared us because our grief was contagious. Because when we remember, we teach others to remember too. War has a way of reshaping the men who survive it. But victory can twist a man into something unrecognizable. By the time the footage from the Veritas had reached the outer systems, we had gone from insurgents to symbols. Planets that never cared about Earth suddenly pledged loyalty to the Terran Accord. Species that once feared us now painted our sigil on their warships. It should have felt like justice. Instead, it felt like a throne built on bone. I stayed off the public channels. Dren handled most of the diplomacy, if you could call backroom demands and weapon-backed agreements diplomacy. I knew what he was doing. He was consolidating, building a military structure that looked too much like the one we just burned down. But Dren didn't believe in memory like Rain did. He believed in power, and more than anything, he believed I was his weapon. "You're the reason they follow us," he told me in the war room, his eyes scanning the maps of collapsing Council sectors. "They see your face and remember Earth's scream. They see the Revenant and feel her pain. That pain is control, Carrick. We own it now." I didn't answer. I just stared at the blinking dots across the star chart. Dren had marked them red. Every Council world not yet under Accord occupation. There were 37 left. 37 civilizations, half in disarray, most ready to fold. But Dren didn't want surrender. He wanted extinction. The Revenant was more silent now than she had ever been. Her systems flickered, memory banks half-sealed, navigation twitchy. She barely spoke, and when she did, it was in fragments. Rain's voice, mine, someone else's. One night, as I sat alone in the pilot chair, she whispered something that cut deeper than anything the Council ever said. "Carrick, what do we become when there's nothing left to destroy?" I didn't respond. I didn't know how. Because the truth was, I didn't have a future in mind. I had only lived for revenge, for punishment, for the scream, the price. And now that the galaxy was paying it, I wasn't sure who I was anymore. Things began to fracture. Our newest allies, non-human species who had joined us after seeing the Veritas footage, were growing uneasy. They hadn't signed up to replace one empire with another. Their diplomats sent messages, requests, then warnings. Drien ignored them all. When the Siren Confederacy withdrew its support and tried to declare neutrality, Dren sent a battalion to secure peace. Half their capital was leveled in 36 hours, and then came the Council's peace offer. What was left of it anyway? A broken delegation. Half-bloods, ex-leaders, defectors too scared to vanish completely. They didn't even ask for survival. They asked for obliteration with dignity. "We recognize our crimes," the speaker said through the hollow feed, blinking under the weight of 10 sleepless nights. "We only ask that you do not become what we were." Dren wanted to broadcast their execution. Lev, across every Accord-aligned system. "It'll show them we don't flinch," he said. I slammed the table. "We're not building a graveyard. We're building a future." Dren didn't flinch. "You're forgetting something," he said slowly. "You're not Rain. You didn't build the Accord. We did. You're the voice, nothing more." I stood up. "And you're the echo of every tyrant we swore to bury." He didn't say another word, but I saw it in his eyes. He wasn't going to follow me anymore. A week later, someone tried to assassinate me. Not with bombs, not with blades, with poison. Slipped into my ration pack, subtle and old-fashioned. Would have worked if the Revenant hadn't run a molecular scan when my neural vitals spiked. I spent 4 hours convulsing on the medbed, bleeding from my nose and retching blood. When I came to, she spoke again. Software slurred, but herself. "They're afraid of what you might choose next." That's when I realized. This war had never been about humans versus aliens, Council versus Earth. It was about control versus memory. The Council used silence to rule. We used pain, but both could corrupt. And I had been the center of it all. I called a summit, first time in Accord history. Leaders from all systems, human and alien, gathered on a neutral moon once used as a quarantine facility. I stood alone on the central platform. No guards, no theatrics, just the last man left who remembered what Earth felt like before it died. "I'm not Rain," I told them. "I'm not here to inspire loyalty or fear. I'm here to give it back. The scream, the fight, the choice." I pulled up a hollow feed, showed the execution orders Dren had drafted, showed the raids, the suppression. "Does this look like the future we wanted?" Silence. Then murmurs, then shouts. Someone from the Varanth Assembly raised their voice. "You made us believe in your cause. You made us burn our flags. You told us this was remembrance." "And it still is," I replied. "But remembrance without conscience becomes domination. We didn't fight to become rulers. We fought to never forget what was done to us." Dren wasn't there. He didn't need to be. His hand had already been exposed. 2 days later, he fled to a loyalist fleet near the border systems and declared a new accord. One where Earth's pain justified absolute control. It was civil war all over again. Except this time, it wasn't about survival. It was about identity. The Revenant took one last flight. She was failing fast. AI core deteriorating, emotional memory banks corrupted beyond repair. She asked me where we were going. I said, home. Even if it didn't exist anymore. We jumped to Earth's last known coordinates. There was nothing left, just dust and orbiting debris fields where satellites used to be. The old moon was a graveyard now, spinning silently, covered in burn scars. I stood on the bridge, alone. And I remembered. Not the fire, not the loss, but the before. Sunlight over oceans, laughter, my brother's voice, the smell of autumn. That's when I knew what I had to do. I couldn't win this by becoming louder, or stronger, or feared. I had to let go, not of memory, but of the rage that warped it. I sent one final broadcast to every Accord system, to every breakaway fleet, to Dren, to those who hated me, to those who worshipped me. This is Carrick, son of Earth. There will be no empire, not from us, not again. I decommissioned the Revenant, sealed her core, and let her die over the orbit of the world she was born to avenge. The last Terran warship, gone, a symbol, a funeral, and then I disappeared. No ceremony, no crown, no final speech, just a name in the dust, a memory, like Earth itself. 20 years later. The galaxy did not end in fire. Not quite. There was no single final battle, no blood-drenched conclusion, no banners raised in triumph over the bones of the Council. What came instead was messier, quieter, the kind of ending only the survivors understand. One not written in textbooks, but whispered by the old and tattooed into the skin of men who watched too much and lived too long. The Terran Accord still exists. But it is not an empire, not anymore. It is a scattered cluster of systems, part republic, part confederacy, part myth. There is no throne, no official capital, just free colonies with one shared creed. Remember Earth. I live now on a fringe world no one cares about. It rains here more than it shines. The soil is rough and unkind, but the air is real, untouched. No filtration required. And when I look up, I can see the stars through atmosphere, not synthetic domes. The locals don't know who I am. They call me the old spacer, the quiet one with the limp and the 1,000-yard stare. I fix ships in a rusted hangar, rebuild engines from junk, trade silence for parts. It's better this way. They don't ask questions, and I don't give speeches anymore. But every year, on the same day, something happens. A courier ship lands, always a different model, always unmarked, and from its cargo bay, a small metal crate is wheeled out. Inside, there's always one item, a memory. Sometimes it's an old Earth relic, a book scorched at the edges, a child's toy found in the wreckage of a forgotten colony, a data crystal holding someone's final scream. Other times, it's a letter, written by someone who never knew Earth, but who remembered it anyway. This year's was simple, a tattered journal, handwritten, ink smeared by time and tears. Inside, one sentence circled in red. We don't worship Earth. We remember her pain so we don't repeat it. That's all I ever wanted. Not obedience, not power. Just memory with teeth. The war didn't vanish. Of course not. There are still those who want control, who use Earth's name like a war drum, who twist our past into fuel for tyranny. Dren's faction, what's left of it, still occupies 3 systems. They call themselves the True Accord now. Still use my face in propaganda. Still kill in the name of Rain. They don't realize Rain's final order wasn't destruction. It was redemption. But I don't fight them anymore. I've fought enough. The people who know the truth, they carry the fight in quieter ways now. Some teach, some record stories. Others rebuild ruins left behind from fires we started and never finished putting out. Some still serve. Old Terran ships still roam the void. But none are like the Revenant. She was the last of her kind, a warship made of pain, a scream with engines, and she is gone. I made sure of that. I scattered her core into 100 untraceable fragments, let the wind of space carry her across the stars like ash, let the galaxy feel her presence, but never resurrect her. Some things are meant to end, even ghosts. There's a child here, about 8, quiet, always watching me work on the busted fusion drives. He asks strange questions. Did you see Earth? Did it hurt? Did we scream loud enough? I never answer directly. I just nod. He told me last week he wants to fly, not for war, not to conquer, just to see what's out there. I built him a small glider. One-man craft, limited range, mostly symbolic. He named it Rain. I didn't ask him to, but it made me smile. A real smile. The kind I thought I'd buried with my brother. Sometimes I dream of the day Earth died. Not the fire. The silence that followed. That awful, deafening stillness where no one came, no one spoke, no one cared. That was the real death. That's what the Council created. That's what we shattered. And now? Now, every time a colony lights a torch in Earth's name, not as a weapon but as memory, we win again. Not because we're still loud, but because we refuse to go quiet. I get letters sometimes, from people I saved, people I never met. One from a Syrian child whose mother died during the early revolts. She wrote, "They told me humans were monsters, but then they showed us what the Council did. I don't hate you, I don't fear you, I remember you." That one I keep folded in my jacket, close to my heart. So when the dark days come, and they still do, I reach for it, because it reminds me this was never about glory. It was about not being forgotten. I sometimes wonder what Rain would say now, if he'd approve of what we built, or scold me for the bridges we burned. Maybe both. He wasn't a saint. He was a soldier forged in betrayal, a man who chose legacy over survival. But he taught me something I never forgot. You can survive as a shadow, or die as a scream. We chose the scream, and even though it cost us everything, it echoed, still echoes. Some nights I walk the cliffside alone, looking up at the stars. I think about the Revenant, about her voice in my head, her rage, her grief, and her silence in the end. I wonder if she found peace, if ships even can. I wonder if I ever will. Then I close my eyes and remember my brother's voice, the warmth in it, the way he said my name before the world ended. I remember Earth, not as fire, but as home. And I know then, we didn't lose. Because somewhere out there 1,000 ships carry the truth, not in banners, not in guns, but in memory, and memory is eternal. A small colony on the edge of the Serpent's Veil hosts a monument now. No statues, no names, just a wall etched with a single line. You made this choice, now pay the price. No one claims responsibility for building it. No funding records, no government involvement, but travelers come, all kinds, humans, aliens, survivors. They stand there, quietly, reading the words. Sometimes they cry, sometimes they kneel, sometimes they just nod and walk away. But none of them forget, and that's the point. The scream has become a whisper, not weaker, just deeper. And it never ends. Not until the galaxy finally learns what it cost to silence a world.